Education Minister Shawn Edward, who also represents Dennery North, a rural farming community, detailed the impacts of Tuesday's heavy rains that caused flash flooding across the island. Edward said the floods primarily affected farmers and disrupted school attendance. The minister was speaking to reporters Friday on the sidelines of a water treatment plant inauguration in bucolic Babonneau. He explained that fertilizer application was washed away in some parts of Dennery North, forcing farmers there to reapply an additional cost.
There was extensive flooding. There was not much damage to infrastructure. However, some of the vegetable farmers and the banana farmers themselves would have been impacted by the flooding. So persons who applied fertilizer just a few days prior to the rains would have suffered loss in that everything was washed away. And they may have to look for an additional supply to apply to ensure that their crops thrive and they can reap from that to sustain themselves and their families. The vegetable farmers were completely flooded in some areas, so they too suffered a degree of loss. But apart from that, I think we did well. The only issue was the morning of the floods, of the rains. The roads were impassable, and as such, children could not leave home to go to school. Some persons were not able to leave their homes to go to work, and that proved to be a major setback. And that was not just confined to the Dennery North constituency, but throughout several communities in Saint Lucia.
Edward explained that the decision to close schools was made following discussions with the Met Services and disaster management officials.
After consulting with the Met Office and NEMO, a decision was arrived at to allow students to stay home in the best interest of everybody. I would have made the point before that I do not unilaterally just decide to keep schools going or to close down schools. We do the risk assessment with NEMO and the Met Office, and it is after those two agencies collaborate with the Ministry of Education a decision is arrived at.
Despite the disruption, Edward expressed optimism about the overall state of education in Saint Lucia, citing recent investments in school infrastructure, teacher support and digital learning initiatives.
But generally speaking, I'm happy with where we are at in education. There has been a huge injection of capital into the education fraternity. We continue to pay facilities fees for every child in the public, secondary and primary system. We have repurposed 4 of our traditional secondary schools to TVET institutes in Alger, in PI, in Marigot and in Grand Riviere Dennery. The teachers will be receiving their TMA or the teaching material allowance, where every teacher takes home $1,400 compliments the government of Saint Lucia. You would have heard, notwithstanding that we had done extremely well this year with our CXC, CSEC returns, mathematics continues to be a problematic area for us, and the Prime Minister has committed $250,000, $250,000 for mathematics instruction. As it relates to early childhood education, for the first time the government gave every private early childhood center in this country a check for $2,500, and the Prime Minister went further to commit that he will meet approximately 1/3 of whatever it is costing parents to have their children enroll in the private early childhood centers.
The Education Ministry continues to monitor the situation as cleanup efforts progress across the affected areas. Joachim Duplessis, HTS News Force.